Yes, well, this is the biggest case of its kind in British legal history, potentially in the world. Now, Reynhard Sinaga was described as evil by his victims. He was described as evil by the judge. Even his defence team said what he did could be described as evil crimes. Now, his victims had no idea that they had been drugged and raped and filmed until years later when police came knocking on their door. They have described the huge impact that this has had on their lives. Meanwhile, after a series of trials, today Sinaga was handed his own life sentence. This man is the UK's most prolific rapist. Reynhard Sinaga eagerly leaves his flat in Manchester city centre. He's looking for a man to rape. In one case, he'd been gone just 60 seconds before he was back with a victim. To date, he's been convicted of 136 counts of rape, but his victims would have no idea of the ordeal they'd been put through until he was finally caught years later.
Absolute monstrous individual, calculating, deliberate. The world needs to know just what a prolific and predatory individual Sinaga is. He's a monster and a mystery. He's not given us any clue as to his motivation. It's the most unusual case that I've had in 30 years of prosecuting.
36-year-old Sinaga, who is originally from Indonesia, moved to the UK in 2007 on a student visa. He studied a master's degree at Manchester University and went on to begin a PhD in Leeds before returning and moving here to Montana House. Just yards from his flat, a vibrant bar and club scene popular with students. It was here around Princess Street that in 2015 he began to seek out drunk young men, most of whom were 18 or 19 years old and heterosexual. He'd offer them a place to contact friends before guiding them home. Many described being given a drink. The prosecution say it was laced with drugs like GHB to render them unconscious. They all reported waking up with little or no memory of what happened. But Sinaga had filmed himself sexually abusing them. He even kept trophies of some of his victims, like phones and wallets and pictures of their Facebook profiles. He'd go undetected for 2 years, until one man woke up mid-attack and fought back, leaving Sinaga's blood on his front door. He then contacted police, and the recordings provided all the evidence that they needed.
The total amount, I'm told, would fill 330 DVDs. So a painstaking job going through all those dreadful recordings and picking out each of the individual offences. Absolutely horrific. The victims have had the most dreadful experience because Sinaga has derived pleasure, I think, from making the victims go through the court process, pay tribute to their bravery and their commitment.
48 men gave evidence against Sinaga. Many of their stories were strikingly similar. They recalled stumbling down this street, drunk after a night out and separated from the people that they were with. When they were approached by a man some of them called a nice guy, they said he was softly spoken, a man they thought was going to help them. Sinaga would boast to his friends, sending photos claiming it was consensual. One commented on his like of straight boys. "You mean like this one," he said. "There's always a new one," the friend replied. 21 years old, lol, like me. He said of another victim he was straight in 2014. 2015 was his breakthrough into the gay world. Sinaga failed to cooperate with police throughout the trial. His defence claimed his victims were pretending to be asleep as part of a game. He said in court, just because it's weirder than 50 Shades of Grey, it didn't mean that people weren't willing to play along. It was a claim fiercely refuted by those he raped. They told of the huge impact this has had on them.
I have never been in such a bad place in my life.
I felt numb. I was totally shocked, embarrassed, betrayed and very angry.
I will never forget the day police came to see me. I was absolutely devastated to hear that I had been a victim of rape.
I want Sinaga to spend the rest of his life in prison.
We have had some men who've thought about taking their own lives, and it's been really quite challenging to keep them safe.
The care of the victims has been at the forefront of the investigation. They've been supported here at St Mary's Sexual Assault Referral Centre. A number of them have gone to court to give evidence. How do you support them through that?
We took people around the courts to have a look at the courts, where they would sit, where the defendant would be. What they've talked about when they've come out is that they're glad that they've done it. They feel empowered that they've actually told what's happened to them, or what they can remember has happened to them, and we will be with them for as long as they need us to be.
In total, Sinaga was found guilty of 159 sex crimes. It took 4 trials to convict him due to the sheer volume of evidence and the number of victims, more than any one jury could sit through. But police were not able to identify all of the men in the videos, meaning many more may have fallen prey to this predator. Yes, and Judge Goddard QC echoed that and said that the true extent of his offences may never be known. However, a special incident line has been set up for those who think they may too be victims or need some special support. The details are on our website and on the screen as well. Now, it's a case that's been so harrowing that even the juries have needed special psychological help from everything that they've had to sit through. And there also have been concerns about the impact that this will have on Manchester as a city. The council have released a statement which says that whilst it's a deeply shocking case, these crimes happened, their long shadow should not tarnish perceptions of Manchester. They were the actions of a depraved predator acting in isolation. Now, anyone that's had anything to do with this case has paid tribute to the men who've come forward and given evidence, and one of them had a message that he wanted Sinaga to know. He said, "I am not going to let you ruin my life. I am going to fulfil my career plans and have a happy life." Meanwhile, Sinaga will spend at least the next 30 years of his in prison.